This meeting to order. This is the February 2007 Beech Grove Board of Zoning Appeals, 2008 Beech Grove Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm Mark Sutterfield, Chairman, and along with me today are
Julie Weaver,
Joy Wallace,
Rochelle Lemminger, City Attorney,
Sarah Kincaid, Clerk Treasurer,
Dick Petrecka.
We are absent one, Pat Kennedy. Pat Kennedy has resigned from the board, and the City of Indianapolis was his appointment, so we will be looking forward for the City of Indianapolis to be making another appointment to our board. We wish Mr. Kennedy well. He's taken a position in another state and was unable to attend today. We'd like to start off with the reading of the last month's meetings.
Beech Grove Board of Zoning Appeals, January 2nd, 2008 meeting minutes. Mark Sutterfield called the meeting to order at 1 p.m. Also in attendance were board members Dick Petrecka, Pat Kennedy, Julie Weaver, and Joy Wallace. Also in attendance were Linda Albrand of the Indianapolis DMD, City Attorney Tricia Lemminger, and Heather Brown, Secretary. The minutes from the December 5th, 2007 meeting were read. Dick Petrecka made a motion to approve as read, Julie Weaver seconded, and the minutes were approved as read. Mark Sutterfield read the rules of procedure and swore in those who intended to give testimony at the meeting. There was no unfinished business. Under special requests, David King represented the City Administration of Beech Grove requests, hearing a continuance for the property owner, Kenneth Lyons, until the February 6th hearing. David Thompson of Eagle Welding made comments concerning the petition. Linda Albrand of Indianapolis DMD recommended a continuance. Joy Wallace made a motion to continue 07 BGUV5 until February hearing, or it will be dismissed. Julie Weaver seconded the motion. The motion was approved. Heather will send a certified letter to property owner regarding the meeting for next month. The next meeting will be February 6th, 2008 at 1 p.m. Mark Sutterfield opened the floor for nominations for chairman of the board and will elect at the next meeting. Pat Kennedy recommended Mark Sutterfield continue as chairman. Julie Weaver agreed. Dick Petrecka made a motion to adjourn. Pat Kennedy seconded. The meeting was adjourned at 1:20 p.m.
Okay, under the unfinished business, we do have the appointment of the chairman of the committee. The nominations were open last month. Let's go ahead and take care of that now. Are there any other additional nominations?
I move that we close.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, looks like I got this job for another year then. That was thanks, Dick. I was hoping to get you to volunteer.
No, I did my share.
Okay, if I could, I want to read the rules of our procedure here for our meetings. We are governed by the rules of procedures, and the petitioners or the persons who are in support of a case being heard shall have a maximum of 15 minutes for their presentation of evidence, statements, and arguments in support of the petition. Any person who desires to speak and provide testimony during today's hearing must first sign in. So if you haven't signed in, please do so in the back of the room. Remonstrators or persons appearing in opposition of the petition will also have a maximum of 15 minutes for presentations of their arguments, statements, and evidence in opposition of the petition. After which we'll hear from the staff, and the staff will present the administrator's comments regarding the petition. After which the petitioner will then be allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal and a summarization of their case. Now please note that the rebuttal must be limited to the subject matter in the initial presentations. And then the remonstrators will then be allowed 5 minutes for their rebuttal of the petitioner's rebuttal evidence and then a brief closing statement. After which no further evidence or statements or arguments will be heard unless it's at the discretion of the board. I'd like you to please limit your testimony to the evidence and to the matters covered in the statutory requirements, which must be met in order for this board to grant your variances. If a petitioner has failed to comply with all notices requirements as stipulated by the board's rules of procedure, including posting of the notice, place cards, and subject property at least 23 days prior to the hearing, the board may continue the petition. Anyone at this time who thinks that complete or proper notice has not been given and would like the petition continue due to the lack of proper notice must bring this matter to the board's attention at this time. Seeing none, the board may impose various conditions and amendments before reaching a decision on certain petitions. The installation of landscaping, screening, and paving of parking areas and the directions of right-of-ways are examples of such conditions. These conditions are an integral part of the board's decision and must be met for the granted variance to be valid. Please be courteous at all times, and please make sure that your cell phone ringers are turned off. At this time, anybody who is planning on making testimony today, I'd like to ask you to stand, raise your right hand so we may swear you in. Do you swear that the testimony that you're about to give is true and honest to the best of your knowledge? Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, do we have any other unfinished business at this time?
I believe so, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Let's go with the special request, including continuance request. Do we have any special request at this time? Would you please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record?
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, my name is Robert Epstein. I'm an attorney in Indianapolis, and I represent the petitioner in 07 BGTV 12 on Elmwood Avenue. I had just received the staff report before I left to go out of town for a week, and we had a revised plan which we submitted. I've now just met with Mr. Kingan and with the staff to discuss conditions that I was proposing. They're recommending that we ask for a 30-day continuance in order to meet with the staff to work out conditions that would be acceptable if we can. So therefore, I'm asking for a continuance.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in opposition? Linda, does staff have any? Okay. This time we have a motion to, or I need a motion to continue 07 BGUV 05, the property, I'm sorry, that's 07 BGDV 012, the property at 5336 Elmwood Avenue.
So move.
I have a...
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We will hear that next month. Thank you. Are there any other special requests? Seeing none, we'll go ahead to continued petitions. We have petition number 07BGUV05, the property at 3224 South Emerson Avenue, also known as 148 South First Avenue. Would you like approach the bench?
Hi, Dave Thompson, Eagle Welding. I was talking to Kenny and Mr. Kingan, and I guess he gave me permission to go ahead and represent him for the meeting. And Mr. Kingan has, I guess, talked to the staff, and they've come with an agreement on, we've added 3 things off the excluded list and agreed to keep that the door could be open during business hours. And I guess we're all in agreement of what we want, so.
Okay. It's taken a little while, but we're finally in agreement, huh? Okay, we do have the consent form on file. Thank you very much for that. Do we have any questions from the board before you step down? Any questions? Thank you. Do we hear any remonstrators for this property? Seeing none, we'll go to the administrator's report. Linda, can we hear from you? Or are we going to hear from Mr. Kingham first? Okay. Here's a copy.
Chairman Centerfield, members of the board, David Kingan, again with offices at 618 East Market Street, representing the city of Beech Grove today. We do have for you copies of the final excluded uses that we agreed to. When we met, we determined with Mr. Thompson and Mr. Lyons, the owner of the property, that we weren't as far apart as we thought. We did remove 3 uses that they wanted to retain on the site of the 68 that we had asked to exclude. And so this final list I have before to present to you shows the 65 uses that would be recorded with the property that could not be located on the property.
Okay.
David, is what you're handing out consistent with what was on file at the clerk treasurer's office? That was, okay, that was submitted with the consent form?
It's file stamped.
Okay.
Again, we want to thank Mr. Thompson. He's worked very hard to get to this point, and also to Mr. Lyons, the property owner, because he is making some sacrifices on the better half of Beech Grove. These uses, as you look through them, again, you may say many of those uses could never locate on this property, and that many of that is true, although what we want to give some protection for is somebody could acquire multiple properties, and then one of those uses could be located on the Emerson Avenue frontage, and that's the attempt that we're trying to discourage. And again, you've seen this list before, or portions of it, and you will continue to see them as we address other variances along Beech Grove. Again, Eagle Welding is an excellent business at this location. Certainly, the City of Beech Grove does not want to discourage someone from operating at that location. Is it the perfect use, or the use that we would all attract for that site? Perhaps not. But again, it's a very clean operation. It's done entirely indoors, and for the duration of Mr. Thompson's desire to use the property, it's a very appropriate use. What we would hope is that eventually, if Mr. Thompson expands and needs to relocate or sells the property, that would be located in more of a neighborhood retail use, or a use that would be suitable for, again, retail use along Emerson Avenue. But again, I want to emphasize we really appreciate both Mr. Thompson's sacrifices that he's making, because he may become the eventual owner of the property, and the sacrifices that Mr. Lyons, the current owner of the property, is making. And with those conditions that the staff has requested, and the commitments that we've offered to you today that the owner and the tenant have agreed to, the City of Beech Grove, or yes, the City of Beech Grove would enthusiastically support the petition. Regarding Mr. Thompson's issue about leaving the door open, we've listened to Mr. Thompson. He feels like that's an issue that is still very important to him. And although the staff continues to recommend that the door be closed, we feel like Mr. Thompson obviously knows his business best. We do think that that overhead door, if you know the building, is oriented towards a used car lot. It's not oriented towards a residential property, and so therefore we feel that the limited hours that Eagle Welding is open and the limited times that that door may be open, we don't have any difficulty in not having that as one of the conditions that you attach to this variance. And with that, we'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, for clarification, and David, this may also be for the petitioner, I guess I'd like verification from both of you. The consent form specifically provides that Able Rentals is the owner of the property, and then a Kenny Lyons signed the consent form, I guess, on behalf of Able Rentals. The statement of commitments references Kenny Lyons only signing on behalf of the owner. So I guess we need clarification for the record as to who the official owner of that property is, so we can make sure the commitments have been properly executed by the appropriate party.
The property listed in the assessor's office is listed as being owned by Able Rentals. As I understand it, Mr. Lyons is the sole and principal owner of Able Rentals, and I think is authorized to sign for that party. So I'm not sure if that responds to your question.
Okay. I guess if the board chooses to accept or approve the petition today subject to the commitments, I'd just like the commitments to be clarified on the signature block that it is Mr. Lyons on behalf of Able Rentals, so that it cleans up that ownership piece for purposes of these commitments, since we have had that long-standing issue about the consent form and the commitments and the ownership. I just want to be clear that the statement of commitments is on behalf of Able Rentals, because now it only reflects Mr. Lyons personally.
Again, I believe he is the principal or sole owner of Able Rentals, so I think he's authorized to sign for that.
But it would need to recognize Able Rentals as the owner. Right now, as the commitments stand, they indicate that it's Kenny Lyons as the record owner. And
So
in
would
fact-
he need to change that to owner of Able Rentals? Or?
Yeah, it could be Able Rentals, just type in above where it says signature Able Rentals, and then you put by Kenny Lyons, comma, president, or whatever his position is.
Certainly, we can, I'm sure Mr. Lyons would work with us in making that alteration.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Kingan from the board? Seeing none, thank you. We'll now hear from the administrator's comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For your record, Linda Albrand, representing Indianapolis Department of Metropolitan Development. This is a variance of use. The property, as you know, is zoned C7, which, from the commitments you see there, permits a wide range of commercial intense uses. A welding shop is a permitted industrial use. It's permitted in the I3 district. Staff believes that because this will be a completely enclosed use within the existing commercial structure, that as the petitioner indicates, there will only be 2 employees on site, that it would be a minimal use or minimal impact use for the site and not really impact any more than a C7 type of use would. Staff did place 4 conditions on the property, that the parking area be resurfaced and restriped. There is pavement in the front of the structure, and it does not reflect what's on your site plan. Site plan shows 1 parking spot and landscaping pretty much surrounding it further south and further towards the sidewalk. The petitioner did indicate that that would be installed, so we recommend condition number 2, that the parking space and landscaping, as shown on the site plan, be installed within 6 months of your grant of this variance. That all activities of the welding shop remain completely enclosed indoors. And number 4, we did add a condition that the side overhead door remain closed except for deliveries. The petitioner has indicated he does not wish to have it closed, and Mr. Kingan has indicated he is okay, or the administration is okay with it not being closed. We put that condition in there because overhead doors in the summer months tend to create negative impacts on adjacent uses, especially noise. This overhead door is approximately 25 feet from the residential property. Yes, it faces north towards the used car lot and the alley, but it is 25 feet. That's why we did put that condition in there for your reference. However, that would be up to your discretion as to how that condition would read. With that, we are recommending approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Linda. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. Thompson, would you like to say anything else? Okay.
Just one thing.
Okay, come on up, sir. We'd love to hear it.
As far as the overhead door, I did bring in a petition from all the neighbors that said that they didn't have any problem with it, and I think you guys should have that on record. It's come about 2 meetings back.
Okay. Yes, I think we do have it in the file. Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll entertain a motion from the board.
I'll move that we approve this variance, including the 4 questions that the DMD or the downtown recommended.
Okay, is that subject to the amendments?
Yes.
Or the commitments?
Yes.
Okay. I have a second from Joy Wallace. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, for clarification,
I was just going to have you clarify.
do the commitments, the written commitments that were submitted by petitioner and Mr. Kingan contain all of the proposed commitments from staff? They do not, do they?
I have not seen them.
Oh, staff has not seen them? I have an extra copy.
Do you know, David, if they do not? Mr. Chairman, the motion needs to be clarified then as to whether the approval is subject only to the commitments that were submitted by petitioner in the form that has been distributed here today, or whether the approval is also conditioned on not only those proposed commitments, but the additional commitments that are provided for in the staff report that apparently are not included in these.
Okay. Mr. Petrarca, would you like to amend your motion?
Sure. I recommend approval based on these commitments, and are we just talking about the 4 on the petition, or also these?
Also those that have been agreed on.
Well, I would approve the approval of the variance based on all of these commitments from the board, recommended board, and the petitioner that we now have copies of.
So just for clarification, Mr. Petrarca, that your intent is to approve subject not only to the written statement of commitment form commitments, but also those commitments contained in the staff report
Yes,
for today's meeting.
yes.
We have a conflict, don't we, on number 4? The overhead door shall remain closed, is what the staff is Indianapolis is. And the city of Beech Grove is recommending that it be at the owner's discretion.
Mr. Petrarca's, the written commitment form does not address the open or closing of the door, correct? David? So, Mr. Petrarca, if it's the goal to approve subject to the written commitment form as well as staff, there would not be an inconsistency because the written statement
Does
only
not,
addresses excluded uses,
I quickly
and the
looked
staff
through it.
report addresses
Sorry, sir.
additional conditions on top of the excluded uses, correct?
Yes. Do I hear a second? Okay, at this time we need to take do we have any discussion? This time we need to take a vote. Did you bring any ballots?
Maybe.
Okay, would you hand Mr. Petrarca a ballot? Again, this is BG07BGUV05. I have 4 votes. In the matter of 07BGUV05, I have 4 votes for approval. Your variance has been approved. Thank you.
For clarification for the petitioner in the record, Mr. Chairman, the statement of commitment form will need to be revised to include those conditions contained in the staff report dated February 6, 2008. The signature block for that statement of commitments will need to be revised in accordance with my discussions with Mr. King and the petitioner, and then those commitments will need to be submitted back to the Clerk Treasurer's Office within 30 days after they've been recorded with the Marion County Recorder's Office.
Thank you.
Clarification. The staff report indicates that the 4 requested items by staff were conditions, not commitments. Do they still need to be included in the commitment form?
That would be my recommendation to the board.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that the way you? Okay. Okay, our next petition.
Took long enough.
Huh?
Sure took long
Yeah,
enough.
it did. What was that? April?
Somewhere in there.
Mr. Thompson, what was that? April? This has started out? April, May, June? Sorry for all your inconveniences. Good luck. Okay, our next petition is 08 BGUV01, the property at 614 Main Street. At this time, I need to make a statement. I need to remove myself from the vote. These are my neighbors, and because of any conflict of interest, I mean, they're very good friends of mine, and so there's no bias or nothing. I will go ahead and continue the meeting, but at this time, but I will not vote. Okay? Well, I just don't, you're my neighbor, Danny. My wife's going to Las Vegas with Jan. How, So, is there a problem with that from the board?
No.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
Mr. Chairman, for clarification for the record, it should be noted by the other board members that your recusal from the vote should not impact their decision to approve and or deny this petition.
Exactly. Okay. Now that we can get started, would you mind telling us what you want to do, Danny?
Well, basically, it's the address 618 Main Street is the building that we're talking about.
Oh, 618?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Beech Road Meat Market, and we have, we'll put 8 to 10 offices in there, 10 by 10 offices, basically be used by automobile wholesalers. They're not allowed to retail cars, so there'll be no cars sitting around. There'll just be office space for them.
Okay. Any questions? Now, have you submitted the plans and everything for this?
Yes.
Or
The plans for it, right, David?
have all of?
Yes.
I think we have a block plan. Is that all we need? Just the.
I have not seen the filed petition, so.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Linda, do you believe the appropriate site plan has been submitted? Okay.
Okay. You have a copy of it?
Is that it?
Well, that's
It's what you were thinking of, the block plan.
the block plan.
And the area we're talking about is attached to the middle, with 8 parking spaces behind it.
Okay. I'll let you see my copy. Do we have any questions from the board?
If this is to be selling automobiles, but there aren't going to be any on the property?
Wholesalers in the state of Indiana aren't allowed to retail vehicles. All they buy them at auctions and take them to retail dealers. As well as regular car dealers do the same. But these guys, they operate pretty much, from auction to auction, and they just need office space.
And so they would be, you said you wanted to divide that up into individual offices?
Yes,
and
the
each
state
one-
requires a 100 square foot office, 10 by 10 office. The state requires them to have that.
So each person in there would be running their own business?
Yes.
Okay.
There has to be offices. It can't be cubicles. It has to be a, 4 walls, door, and all.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Can we hear from Mr. Kingham? Do you want to go first? Okay.
Again, Chairman Setterfield, members of the board, David Kingham with offices at 618 East Market Street representing the city of Beech Grove. We have been working with Mr. Harvey on his submission of a variance of use. We do feel like, as he described, and the question from the board member was that this is essentially an office use. There will be no automobiles brought to this site, so you will not see display of automobiles either in the front, in the rear, anywhere close to the property. It is not this is certainly not what I'm used to. When you think of going and looking for a used car, you think of there being cars on display. There will be no autos on display at this location. Again, it is primarily an office use. However, the Bureau of Motor Vehicles will not issue the license for people to sell automobiles unless they're in a C5 district or have a use variance. And so that is really, it's a technicality that because of the use is the sale of automobiles, which is listed as a C5 use, that they're here before you today. We have worked with the Harveys on several commitments, and I want to offer those to you. These are not on file, so I as you can see from the commitments, some of them are duplicative of staff's two conditions. We are asking that they remove the projecting sign off the front of the building at 618 Main Street. This is when it was a meat market, and we feel like it's no longer appropriate within 60 days. To pave and stripe the rear parking area within 180 days of the variance grant. To enclose the dumpster per city code within 60 days. And perhaps number 4 might be the most important, is that to rezone the portion that, at a minimum, the portion that was the meat market, which has 2 apartments above it, to the C3C designation. So it would be a down zone from C4 to C3C, but this would allow the 2 apartments that are on the second floor to finally be legally established. There are obviously, if you talk to the petitioner, they thought that they had submitted several years ago documentation to the city of Indianapolis that these were grandfathered. They've been there for many, many years. However, there's no documentation that the city actually ruled on their request that they would grandfather them, and so they have agreed that, and it's in their best interest to get the property properly zoned so the apartments will be in legal use, and so they've agreed to number 4. And number 5 also is something that we've requested, that if indeed there are new design standards that are adopted by the Redevelopment Commission by the end of this year, that they would try to meet the design standards of those signs. We've also added rather recently numbers 6 and 7. There's been some concern about the parking of vehicles and where they park, both the patrons and the occupants and the owners, and so they've committed number 6, that the owners and tenants of the premises shall park their autos in the rear of the premises at all times, and the last, that the owner will post on the inside of the tavern that alerts all patrons that they must abide by the, and I've been corrected that that might be a 2-hour limit along Beech Grove. I'm not sure of that, but whether it's 2-hour or 90-minute, that they would be comply with that parking limitation. So the second page is a not nearly as long a list as the last case. There are 4 excluded uses that would be recorded with this property, and again, you could never locate these uses on these properties: a check cashing facility, an oil and lube facility, a outdoor advertising sign, meaning a billboard, or a pawn shop. And the owner has agreed to those and have executed the commitment form, which is on file, stating that they agree with both attachments D and E. And with those attachments D and E, the City of Beech Grove administration would support the variance request as proposed. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from Hingham? Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
I think one thing I forgot was I didn't ask if there were any remonstrators at this time that would like to come up. Okay, I didn't think there was, but I thought I'd better ask.
Again, for your record, Linda Albrand, representing Indianapolis DMD. This is a variance of use and development standards. The use is for the automobile sales office. And I think Mr. King got it just about right in the confusion over an office is permitted but used car sales are not, but there's not going to be any used car sales, so why do we need the variance? And this is similar to the issue that came up with the Hogan's Pub earlier this year, about 6 months ago. The gentleman wanted to run an office out of the back of the tavern for car sales. However, he wasn't going to have any car sales on site, but he needed the variance anyway. The BMV requires a sign-off from local zoning. They don't require C5 zoning, they require sign-off from us. Our city legal department will not let us sign off on it unless it's C5 or higher, or there's a variance of use, even though they're not planning on having any cars on site, and it would be just an office. So this is, again, catch-22, a technicality in that they would need the variance, even though no cars are proposed on site. The other use on site, besides the residential use that Mr. King had mentioned, is a tavern that was granted a certificate of legal nonconforming use for its proximity of the alcohol to the residential use north of it. Or otherwise, that would have been included in your variance today. The variance of development standards is for parking, in that the 47 required spaces on site cannot be provided, and only 8 are provided. Being that this is a typical Main Street developed, designed area, and parking is simply not able to be provided because of how it was developed so long ago, we certainly do support the variance for parking. We did include 2 conditions, which both have been incorporated into Mr. Kingan's proposed commitments. Therefore, we wouldn't have any other issues, so I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Linda, are there any questions from the board?
I just have a question for clarification for the board. Mr. Chairman, do the proposed commitments submitted in Attachment D address your concerns or your conditions in the staff report, Linda, or have you had an opportunity to review these?
Both of them are included in there.
Okay, so this is consistent?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Linda? Mr. Harvey, would you like to say anything? Okay. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to call for a motion.
I move we approve the variance.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
For clarification, Mr. Chairman, does that motion of approval
Subject.
include the Attachment D that's been, I think, agreed to by the petitioner and submitted by Mr. Kingan?
That is your intent, Dick?
Yes.
Then if the board chooses to approve the petition, it would be subject to and conditioned upon this being submitted or put into standard statement of written commitment format and submitted back to the clerk treasurer's office within 30 days of today's date after it's filed with the Marion County Recorder's Office.
Could I have 3 ballots, please? Any other discussion? Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve 08 BG UV01. There will only be 3 votes cast. Joy, I'm going to give you back your ballot. This is, you have a typo error that on your staff report. This is actually should be 08 BGUV01. There was a typo, 07. We're still back with me. That's all right. Okay, I have 3 votes for the matter of 08 BGUV01, 3 votes for approval. Your variance has been approved. Thank you. Good luck. At this time, did you want to make any comments or before? Okay. Anything else at this time that needs to come before the board? Okay.
Hey, you,
I
have
hear
any
any-
recommendations? Please, Pat?
I don't know. I haven't heard any. That's got to come from Indianapolis somewhere. We can figure out who in the
But
world.
if there's somebody in Beech Grove that Beech Grove would recommend, that'd be no problem. That would be best.
That would be,
But
yeah.
Indianapolis would still make.
Well, wouldn't Indianapolis still appoint somebody from Beech Grove?
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yes,
I
they
mean,
should.
They wouldn't want to send somebody from Lawrence or...
And Linda could pay that.
I mean, how does that work? Do you know? Linda, do you know how these appointments
It
work?
is the Indianapolis Department of Metropolitan Development, or I'm sorry, the Metropolitan Development Commission, not the council or the mayor, that appoints 2 members to your board.
Oh, you guys do, not the court or the council?
It's the Metropolitan Development Commission
Okay.
appoints 2 members. It's my understanding that the 20th, they will be dealing with all of the excluded cities and their appointments.
Okay, good, because we do, now, do we need to send them a copy of this resignation?
Is that Mr. Kennedy's?
This is Mr. Kennedy's, he's moved.
That's already been
He's
received by our
moved.
office.
Oh, it has been
Yes.
received, okay, thank you. Okay, anything else that needs to come before the board at this
That clears
time?
that up.
Huh?
See, that clears that up.
That clears that up, yeah, that's great, all right. So we may have a new face sitting here next month.
Hopefully.
Okay, our next meeting is set up for Wednesday, March the 5th, 2008. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? All in favor, say aye. This meeting is adjourned.